Hey everyone, Egman here with another video, and today we have the top 16 breakdown for the CORE TCG Webcam Regional for Dragon Ball Super that happened this past weekend. Super good event, topped out at 256, and yeah, super well run. A lot of diversity in the top 16, as you'll see by almost 16 pie slices here. But yeah, once again, shout outs to CORE. Check out their website for cards, and also make sure to check out their Facebook. They have some events that will probably be announced in the next couple of weeks. They just said to keep their eyes open for that. And again, thank you for giving me these lists to give to you guys. But yeah, just a whole lot to talk about. I'm just going to go straight down to the first 16 and go over the names and leaders because there's just so many. So Frank Newcomb with Aandroidd 18, Daniel Alvarez with King Cold, Joseph Palladino for King Piccolo, Alexander Lawrence with SS4 Bardock, Raymond Sierra with Bulma, Michael Carrick with Golden Frieza, Jared Lopez with Aandroidd 16, Nicolis Rivera with Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta and Super Saiyan Trunks, Jonathan Solinki with King Piccolo, George Moniz with Janemba Mill, Jose Zuniga with Sin Shenron, Robert Rizzi with Soul Striker Reboot, Andres Rizzo with Red Cooler, Maverick Steel with Soul Striker Reboot, Brandel Cantu with Gogeta Zeno, and Tommy V with SS4. So obviously 14 leaders in 16 places. Very, very diverse for this. A crazy amount. Also, no Universe 7 Goku, which was super interesting, comparing it to the Carta event that happened yesterday. And if you guys want, there will be a link to that top 16 too that I have on my channel. But there were 3 Gokus that was the most popular, and then there's none on this one, which is really interesting. So I'm going to go over most, I would say about half of these lists. The ones I won't go over in a lot of detail are King Piccolo. Make sure to just check out Joey's video. It's right here linked as well. And if you guys want this document, it's in the description of this video too, so make sure to check it out. I'm not going to go over Janemba Mill because George made his own video there. I'm not going over Shin Shenron because I've gone over that for like years. So just, yeah, I don't have a lot to say about that. And then also Gogeta Zeno, it is Brando Cantu, the only person to get top 16 in both this and the Carta event. I already talked about it in my video yesterday, so if you want to see more about that, let me know. The Sin Shenron, I also did a deck profile or talk about it over there too, so I don't have a lot to say about it, so I kind of skipped it, but definitely congrats to Josue for that, top 16. Huge accomplishment. I just don't really have a lot to say to it. So let's get on started. So real quick, I don't have a lot, honestly, to say about Frank's list that probably he didn't say already. So check out their video too. I did just want to show it because it is the first place list on the channel. So here it is. I'd say pretty standard. The only kind of new tech is the new Realm of the Gods Beers Destroys, strong extra card, but this has kind of been like an archetype that's existed for like 2 years, just with the idea. Quickly, the cliff notes, if you don't know how this works, is that essentially you just give your opponent a bunch of tokens, and then you get this Frieza out by playing it off the Rebirth of Justice. And the idea of this card is that when this card attacks, choose all of your opponent's battle cards, ignore and bury, get minus 30k power for duration in the turn. And when the power of one of your opponent's battle cards is decreased, your opponent places 2 cards at the top of their deck into the drop area. So if you give them 10 tokens and you have you swing at this Frieza, then they have to mill 20 cards at least for each token than any other battle card. So that's just the idea. You get this Frieza out, you have a lot of protection with it, with either like Golden Baby, Baby Unison, etc., and then you just swing in and you get the win with it. That's the whole deck plan. That's the mill out for it. So that was what was going to be happening, and that's kind of how he won this whole event with it, and super duper good. So congrats to Frank. It's going to be interesting to see if we see more of this deck moving forward. All right, second place, an old favorite again. We've got Daniel's King Cold list. Nothing, I would say, too fancy or really anything. What's the newest card in this build, real quick? I think the newest card is this is from set 14. All this is from set, 13? Right? Yeah, not a whole lot of new cards here, but honestly, when this first came out, it had a lot of strength. It was probably one of the best decks in the format, and it's still super duper good. It's interesting in how it works too, just the whole field card strategy, and obviously it's very archetype dependent, but what it does is, it does really well. And I don't know, Green's been in a really weird spot, especially since before this. Bandless and set, the only kind of green kind of support or leader that we saw was with Cells, which is more of a, as a surge leader and everything, and it just kind of benefited from both the green and yellow stuff more than anything else. So it's interesting to see. I don't think we have really a good generic green leader right now, so this green archetype dependent one I think is very strong, and yeah, it's a very, very strong archetype still, and it's really interesting. Obviously, we saw a lot of diversity, and so I think a lot of decks can kind of be viable right now, which is really, really cool. All right, moving to fourth place, we got Alexander's SS4 Bardock. I don't have a lot to talk about this archetype in general, just because I'm not too familiar with it, but I do know it did get some new support. So we did get some like expansion set stuff, and then we do have like the new cards that came out in the set. Obviously, not running a lot of it, but you just get a whole lot of benefits from like all the synergies you get from having all these different colors. Obviously, you get some like size synergy because you technically are running Son Goku Xenos and Vegeta Xenos from here, which is nice. And obviously like the big bad boys too. So a really fun archetype. Honestly, it's probably one of the cheapest archetypes in the game right now. Probably not including this guy, yeah, because he's like $100. But like most of these cards you just get from the expansion set, and you just kind of add on it from there. So cool to see something like this do so well. It did get fourth place, which is incredible. And it's interesting to see like the new cards, having some impact, but obviously not being played as much as the, I'd say, core package for it. But very cool there, and congrats to Alexander. Next up, we've got a Bulma list. Bulma came out in, oh man, like BT9, I think. I'm going to say BT9. But it's a very, very kind of grindy value-based matchup. The fact that it just gives all your Saiyans and Earthlings red and yellow blockers super duper good, and then you can draw 2 cards. So obviously, I would think that it has a hard time against Mill because it just does get a bunch of draw, but it's a very kind of obnoxious archetype. We just play a bunch of boys and girls, and you just kind of sit on them and kind of gain value from there. So we do have some new support with like the Yamcha, but what would you say the newest card? And this probably the Videl. Probably the Videl is the newest card in here. Yeah, the set 15. Is there a card newer than that? I don't think so. It wouldn't go. Yeah, BT 13. Yeah, just honestly a solid list, and that's kind of like what happens when we. Honestly, I don't think like the last couple sets have been really impactful, and they're just kind of been empowering a lot of like really, really good archetypes. And so once those kind of archetypes got taken away with kind of the ban list changes, we have these guys being able to make some choices and some debuts, which is really, really cool. So there's the Bulma list. We do also have Michael's Golden Frieza. Obviously, one of the oldest leaders in the game, still seeing play, which is incredible. The idea of this is very, very interesting, but you pretty much just have like a bunch of these one-drop boys. You're able to take your life, you're able to awaken, and kind of just go from there. And just it's kind of like a yellow toolbox in a lot of ways. Being able to be kind of grindy. It's a little bit more of like a higher dragon, a little bit. It's kind of like that archetype. It's not quite there, but there's some interesting interactions, especially like with Mecha Frieza. So, you can pop it and you get the restrike with it, but you really don't have like a win condition outside of like these trunks, which is really interesting too. Like this is like the stickiest kind of battle card you can swing with. Obviously, you have the SS4s too, and he's running 4 Zamasus just for 4 beans too. Like these are the only blue cards in the deck too, which is a really interesting choice. But being able to have those beans for, you have these dual attacks, like that gets a bunch of bonus things. He does also tech in the 1 Goku Rose, and this was a deck that like I was thinking about the 2 of these combined just because. If you get some energy untap with this guy, which you do, it's like the only like yellow deck with like energy untap. And so if you can do like some crazy untap plays and also kind of tapping your opponent's stuff with this Rose and stuff, I could see it being a little, strong with that. So I'd like to see what his thoughts are with this inclusion, if he'd add more or not. But I do think that there is obviously some synergy with it, and if it's good and worth it is kind of up to his experience with it. But really interesting deck, and cool to see that it's still performing like 4+ years later. It's crazy. Next up, we do have Jared Lopez's, who was the world's runner-up, or it's not world's runner-up, the North American runner-up for 2021. So running Aandroidd 16 then, running Aandroidd 16 now. This is pretty close to the list that he ran at Nats, especially since there's no new cards from set 16. But yeah, very, very strong. We've been seeing a lot of Aandroidd 16 too, and if we look at the Carta Magica, I think 2 people got top 16, at least 1, I think 2 though, got top 16 with Aandroidd 16 as well. And this is just such a cool story where this came out this time last year in 2021, and then it just didn't do anything for a while. And then Jared took it to Worlds. He did really well with it, and everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, this is such a strong deck." So It's cool to see, like, it got like a couple support over like promos and everything, and like super rares and stuff over the last year. And once you put it all together, it just really clicks and still really works. So congrats to Jared for the continued presence and being able to be at the North American Nationals again this next year already. All right, going to 8th place, we got Nikolai's Trunks and Vegeta, the new archetype. This was probably, a lot of people's contenders for kind of the replacement for Higher Dragon. Then it got banned, and I think it's still getting some wins and still making some placements. I think there was the One Drop Vegeta promo that's been released that doesn't look like they got their hands on, just because it's like the first week of tournament promos and stuff. But obviously you see like a bunch of like the cards you would see in like the Higher Dragon being like a bunch of obnoxious yellow cards like Bergamo, Final Flash. We do have the new Black Kamehameha, which is you have to be aware exists now. Running some Vegeta Unison of Fury. Turtles is such a good card, and just it's just still such a toolbox of a color. You just have to use the leader of your preference, especially since like this is a strong kind of leader with like their own mini engine. It's kind of like a half surge leader too, which is really interesting based on how it awakens. And I really like playing this list, and I like this leader in general. So I think it's no surprise that a list like this got so far. All right, next up we do have Robert Rizzi's Soul Striker. This is probably like closer to the list I would run if I didn't like hard pivot to Zamasu at the last minute. Just the idea, like, Goku is in a really good spot right now. Like, I do like the new Great Priest Unison. I think it adds a lot to the archetype. Obviously, this Kefla is amazing, and having, the energy untap and everything available to you, I think is strong in this list. Running 4 Bardocks and 4 Goku Apes is crazy. And then it's also running the new Beers. This card is just absurd, too. If you're able to play this on curve, you just win. Sometimes it's obnoxious. You're able to get card draw. You're able to restand this card. This is super good for just popping Unisons, too, on turn 2. It is such a dirty card. And, like both, like, I don't know. It's just so overstated for what it does. Like, being able to have double strike on a 2-drop that also rests something, that also draws a card when it KOs something. Like, there's just so much on this card that's good. And it just has a lot of synergy with the archetype too. So yeah, once again, like if you get this turn 2, you're just good sometimes. So what else we got? Yeah, pretty much everything else I'd imagine. East Kai doing some work too. Kind of like a in-color, smaller version of Black Mass Saiyan, but just puts a card to the bottom deck. Only 2 Dimension Magics, which is bold, I'd say, and none of the blocker negate either, which is kind of crazy. Running more of the SS3 Gogeta, which this guy is like really good for, like, it's just a 20k dual attacker, so that's kind of nice. And you also have the one of cheese of Gotenks, where if your leader card's a mono blue Saiyan and you have the blue Unison card in play, you can play this card from your hand in rest mode, which means it turns on this permanent. If you have a leader card if your leader card is a blue Saiyan card and you have a blue Saiyan card in play in rest mode, your leader card doesn't take any damage. So this is really good. Additionally, it does proc off this, this Kefla, so you can have your Kefla block and attack, and then it essentially becomes like a deadly defender if you have that Unison out. So a lot of good synergy there. And then also like Baby Golden Ape is good, and like a one of Aandroidd 17 if you need to drop it, I think is a good spot. But there we go there. And going next, we do have 13th place Andreas Cooler Mill. Mill is like in a good spot right now too. There isn't like a lot of hand destruction, and I think most of the time going into a new format, I always see Mill coming back. This happened when set 14 came out, like in September of 2021, 2021. It's just such a good value-based archetype in so many ways. And if you're going against a deck that's a little bit like more mid-rangey and they don't have like a really big end game, or not as aggressive, like Mill can do a really, really good job with it. And there's a lot of decks that are still like self-mill in itself just to get their own abilities to proc, and so you can kind of take advantage of people playing those kinds of lists. Nothing super crazy. I do like the We Are Universe 7 tech, which can get any Universe 7 back, including a Beerus, which is kind of funny. Obviously got a big boost power with the Oceanus Shenron 2, a really good token negate that just fuels your own stuff. But I don't think there's anything newer than at least this Videl, right? Yeah, I think that's like the newest card in this list. Maybe this is BT14, this was BT15. Yeah, so nothing too crazy. We also get to get the one of Cooler Unis, or what is it? The rival card from the Champ Pack. And I don't know. This list has been kind of floating around for a while. Cooler's been like always underperforming since it's been out, but it does make the occasional top, and it's really cool to see. Lastly, real quick, so we do also have Maverick Steel Super Saiyan God Reboot, and I just want to kind of do it back and forth between this and the SS4 Vegeta, because this is kind of like Ramp Vegeta on top of Gogeta, or not Gogeta, on top of Goku, just because of like how it plays. We're playing like the new Deadly Defender counterattack card, which is interesting. We have some Sensu Beans. We're just kind of like bulking up, and then at the end we either drop like a Kale or we drop like an Aandroidd 17, and we're just like really obnoxious until we get to the end of the game. So that's the kind of idea of not only this deck but also the SS4. So this is Tommy's SS4 Vegeta list. I saw a bunch of SS4 also in Carta Magica as well. You know, getting you know, time to make your top end and get there is very, very powerful. Of course, we do have twice as many Ultra Instinct Goku Kamehamehas with the new Beerus Destroys, so it's really easy to get your ramp turn 1 with this list now, as long as you open like one of these 2 cards. So yeah, you get plus 10k, and if it's your turn, choose a 20 opponent's battle cards greater than the inner. But just like this is just a 10k combo, which is nice. A 15k combo though is super duper nice, and just kind of everything else you get from this. So running the 1-up Tragedy Overground just so you can hard cast at 9 is funny, and it still works super well. I've been seeing, you know, that's pretty much was like the meta when we did have the Galactic Buster in rotation. Blue kind of got some hits back and took the back seat, but now that I feel like Hand Destruction specifically has gone some, you know, doesn't exist as much as in the format right now. It's in a really, really good spot. So that is this list too, and I think that's all I have for you guys. So I did kind of go through all these kind of quickly. Once again, if you guys want to see these decks, and you know, specifically, make sure to check the description. There are some yeah, there is this list here and like all the lists inside it. Also, if you do have a video of you talking about your list, or you know that there is one, let me know, and I'll link it to this document as well. I will be updating this as more of these videos go out. Obviously, the players who play these can talk about these lists better than I can at like midnight recording this right now, and that's going to be it for me. So thank you guys so much for watching. Once again, thank you to Core for giving me these lists. Make sure to check out their Facebook for more tournament announcements in the next coming weeks, and that's all I got. So thank you again, and I'll catch you all next time.
Damn it.